Hi, my name is Andy Ponce, and I will be talking to you about analysis of LA parking citations. So very quickly, the questions that I want to answer through this analysis: what general areas have the highest concentration of citations? What types of citations are the most common? What are the most expensive types of citations? How many vehicles with non-California license plates got a traffic citation? And finally, what was the collective fine amount issued during this time period? The data set that I used was taken from Kaggle.com. In the original file, there are about 9 million observations and 22 columns. To avoid using such a large file, I only read in the first 50,000 rows. This resulted in a data frame that has information on traffic violations in LA from December 2015 to January 2016. Also, a quick disclosure, I did have to remove 13,000 of these observations to improve issues with the following plots. So only about 37,000 observations were used during the analysis. The first plot that we see here shows you the location of each citation with respect to longitude and latitude. You'll notice right away that there are some large areas that seem to generally have a higher concentration of these citations. Another thing you may notice is from this legend here, the fine amounts for these citations ranges from below $100 to above $300. Most of these seem to be on the lower end of the spectrum. To get a better sense of the concentration of these citations, we can look at the following density. So in this plot, the yellow areas have a higher concentration of citations. There's one clear yellow area up here that we can see, but there's also a less obvious area down here that does have a little bit of yellow. These two areas will have a higher concentration of citations compared to the rest of the areas. The rough centers of these two areas are given by the following coordinates, which are not actually in traditional longitude and latitude coordinates, but rather on the UTM scale. Now let's look at a more clear map. So this map here is showing you the 1,000 most expensive citations that were issued. Red being more expensive and blue being a little bit less expensive. Also notice that individual points are actually pretty transparent. So when you see some of these more bold points throughout the map, they're actually representing multiple citations that were issued within the same area. You can also see a similar trend in which the two areas with the highest concentration are the two same areas that we saw in the previous plots. So what citations were the most expensive? Here you can see that there are 15 citations that were the most expensive at $363. Some of these have to do with having an invalid license plate. Some of them have to do with violations related to handicap parking and other violations. Another fact that we noticed during our analysis is that the lowest price citations were $25 each. Some of these were for expired tags and some were for angled park vehicles. The fine amount that appeared the most was $73 with about 12,000 observations or 31% of the total citations. When it comes to the most common traffic violations, there are two categories that really have the most. These have to do with expired parking meters and also parking on the street during street clean hours. These two categories accounted for about 53% of the total citations. When it comes to the non-California states that issued license plates for these fined vehicles, the state that had the most citations was Arizona. Not surprisingly, California did have the most citations at 35,000 citations, or about 93% of the total citations. But more surprisingly, from all of the vehicles in the data set, we saw license plates from all 50 US states. Additionally, we saw some vehicles that received citations with license plates from Mexico or Canada. So now let's talk money. After summing up the fine amount column in our data set, we saw that the collective fine amount was about $2.7 million. This is a significant amount considering that this is only over a span of 3 weeks. Also recall that I only used about 37,000 observations, whereas the original data frame has about 9 million. So the actual collective find amount should be way higher.